Hey, good afternoon. I honestly didn't even know what time it was. It's been such an adventure trying to get to this point today. But we're here. We're here. It's the sports show with no name. You might have expected Come On Ref, but we're full of surprises. I'm your host. I'm Chad Bryan. As always, I've got Ben Bales with me, my other host. What's going on, Ben?
Nothing much.
How you doing today, man?
Tired but good.
Tired but good. That's accurate. I'm 45. I'm always every description always starts with tired but something, right? Um, it's starting to feel like it's going to be tired, but more tired here pretty soon. What is today? Today's a Wednesday. It's like 2 o'clock. It's, I don't know, about 75 degrees. Just started raining outside. Kind of some spotty showers here in Northeast Ohio where we are. Um, just if you're, into that kind of a thing. Um, watch out, meteorologist. I'm coming for your job. I clearly just, that was, I mean, that was flawless, right? What are we going to talk about today, man? This is basically, this show is just, we've called it falling into Buckeye football. It's going to be an Ohio State preview, just a light preview. I'm not going to we're not going to get like crazy, like a 3 hour feature length film and, break down every position or, you know, anything like that. Just general questions that are kind of floating around the Buckeye football program. Is it win or die? Well, not win or die. That's ridiculous. Is it do or die for Ryan Day? That sounds better than win or die. I don't think they're going to take him out if he doesn't win. Especially the Michigan game, right? Like I feel like you got to beat Michigan this year, right? A lot
I
of
mean,
people
I
think,
feel like I feel like you have to.
yeah. I mean, a lot of people feel like he's on the hot seat. I don't know that that's necessarily true. I don't feel that way. I think when you bring in a new athletic director, especially one who's been with Texas A&M, right, and has
Hmm.
seen, you know, what the sport of coach jumping can do to a football program. Um, I don't think he's going to win. I don't think that's the first big splash he's going to want to make, right? I don't think that's it.
No.
So hopefully he won't have to. I mean, if the Buckeyes go, whatever, undefeated or, lose a game, well, it's a 12-team playoff, so they can afford to lose a game. Hopefully it's not to Michigan. I could see Oregon being a really, really tough contest for them. I think that's going to be a tough game. We can get into the
Speaking of
schedules
Oregon,
later. Yeah.
speaking of Oregon, do you see what Phil Knight did?
No. No.
So Phil Knight, if you guys don't know, I mean, he's the creator of Nike.
Yeah.
He is giving Oregon unlimited NIL resources.
Okay.
So whatever
It's only a
NIL,
matter of
so
time. Yeah.
yeah, so he said he wants to see a national championship brought to his alma mater. So whatever he needs to dish out to get these 5-star players to come to Oregon, he said he's going to do it.
Hey, and and a lot of people are going to have a problem with that, but that's the way of the game now. I mean, there's nothing wrong
Yep,
with that. It's
that's that's what NIL's become.
yeah, you've got to use the resources that are available to you, right?
Yep.
Sometimes it's amazing tradition. Sometimes it's the best facilities in the nation. Sometimes it's just a lot of cash. Um, that's where we are now. There's nothing wrong with that. Listen, I saw a thing the other day though. Uh, Speaking of a lot of cash, um, maybe this is crossing the line for you. I think this is crossing the line. I think this is like the most egregious case of crossing the line. A friend of mine sent to me a video, baseball podcast that he was listening to, and he caught a snippet on there where they were talking about a 12 or 13-year-old kid who was getting money from a travel organization to play in tournaments with the travel organization. They were paying him. Supposedly, according to the story, that the dad asked for some walk around money for the weekend and got it from the travel organization, right? Um, how you feel about that, Ben?
Um, I mean, that's too far. Like
Yeah.
he's they're 12 years old. There's no reason you should be. If you really want to play for a travel team that badly and you're that good enough, they'll take you no matter what. You shouldn't have to be paid just to play for that team.
No. And listen, I don't blame the kid or the family for taking what's available to them, right? Like in life, you learn that like you don't always get those opportunities twice or three times, right? Like if someone offers you something, you take it. But that being said, yeah, money for youth travel baseball is wild to me. That's again, like I said, that's maybe the most egregious case of crossing the line I've heard. I'm probably more of a baseball purist than I am not. By that same token, I'm not a big believer in the unwritten rules. I don't care about celebrating home runs. Like I was a pitcher when I played. I was a pitcher my whole career. I don't remember ever once being mad at a guy for being happy about hitting a home run. I mean, that's his job, right? Like you're
Yeah.
going to celebrate with your teammates. You're going to have like a thing that you and your teammates. I don't care about any of that stuff.
It was like yesterday. It was like yesterday in the Guardians game. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see it. Yeah, I saw the
The
score. That's all I saw.
the Tigers hit like a massive 3-run shot,
Yeah.
and then Javier Baez gets up the plate and gets plunked, and goes out and starts looking at the pitcher and like talking trash. And the Guardians announcer goes, he's like, Javi, he's like, nobody's gonna hit you on purpose. You're hitting below 200. He's like, calm down,
Right, right. I was just gonna say, just throw him 3 sliders off the plate and he's done. He's gonna sit back down.
right?
That's really funny. That's funny.
Dude, it's like, dude, he's like, and the thing is like, even Austin Hedges was telling him like, the slider slipped out of his hand and hit Baez on the leg. If he's gonna hit you,
slider and got that mad.
yeah. Like if a pitcher's gonna purposely hit you, it's gonna be a heater at the ribs.
Yeah.
Like
you would think you would be happy that let's get that on base percentage up above 200, right? Like,
yeah,
on,
but like Andre not or like somebody said on Twitter, like if he's gonna intentionally hit you, it's gonna be with a fastball to the ribs.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not gonna throw. Okay, here's a 77-mile-an-hour slider that's gonna hit you on the leg.
Right, and like you said, and like everyone would agree right now, if you watch baseball, if you're even a casual fan, you know nobody's hitting Javi Baez on purpose. Nobody's gonna on purpose.
No.
I mean, he comes with his own out. I mean, he's just every time he comes up, it's like you expect him to swing and miss and strike out.
Yep.
I mean, his plate discipline is awful right now. Maybe he needs to get his eyes checked, Ben. Is he not seeing the ball? I mean, what's going on?
He might need LASIK eye surgery.
He's got to do something, man. He's got to do something. It's not physical ability. We all know he can play the game.
Oh, dude. Well, that's what AJ Hinch said. AJ Hinch, like, like people have asked him, why don't you take him out of lineup? He's like, because defensively, he's one of the best in the league. And like up the middle, he gives us a chance to win games.
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is he's saving more runs than he's not producing, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay. I mean, I can live with that. It's a different era of baseball. It'd be different if you had 8 guys in the lineup hitting over 320, right? But
yep.
I mean, you don't even have 8 guys in the league hitting over 320. I mean, it's Stephen Kwan, and that's it, right?
I think so, yeah.
Is he the only guy? I think he's the only guy over 320 right now.
I think Kwan's at like 360. I think Bobby Witt's at like 312, and Jerkson Profar's at like 315.
It's a big gap. I know Kwan missed some time, and everybody wants to say, well, all the games. Okay, so
dude,
what would he be?
Here's
45 maybe if he had gone on.
Here's the thing. Those games Stephen Kwan missed, if you gave him 0 hits in all 21 games, he still would lead the league in batting average.
That's insane.
If you gave him 0 hits.
Yeah.
It's like,
did you see the hustle play from him the other day too? You get more than just hitting. Obviously, he's a Gold Glove winner. But it's not even just the Gold Glove. It's not just the good defense. It's the good hustle defense. Ball off the wall. Center fielder went up for it. It just got away from him or whatever. But Kwan was right there.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
hold it to a double, man. I mean, that was really impressive. It's just, he just knows the game. He just plays the game the right way, and you love to see it.
So I wanted to ask you this. So the Guardians have a lot of great corner outfitters coming up throughout their minor league system, and there's talks they might draft Travis Bazzana from Oregon State or Charlie Condon from Georgia, who have both. Charlie Condon's a natural left fielder. Yeah. He's not going to replace Jose at third. No. We know that. No. And Travis Bazzana is not going to replace Andres Jimenez at second. No. And Travis Bazzana said that he's expressed interest in playing the corner outfield. Okay. So if you draft one of these guys, do you move Kwan to center, or do you keep Kwan in left?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's up to Kwan's comfort level. I would think he would be just fine in center. I mean, I was going to say serviceable, but I would think he would be a good center fielder. No, I mean,
his natural position is center field, but you had Miles Straw there for 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's like
Miles Straw to me was always more of like a raw athlete who was like trying to make baseball work, and that's not enough.
Yeah,
baseball's really hard. That's not.
It is.
It's not an easy sport. He just was like, he looked like that guy. He looked like he was probably like in high school. I'm sure he was the best athlete on every team he was on.
Right? Oh, for sure.
Every single team. Like, I'm sure he was that guy. He just looks like hitting maybe doesn't come naturally to him. He's a good enough athlete to go out there and do something, figure out a little bit. But some guys can just hit. I mean, look at Kwan. Kwan's just a hitter, right? He's just a hitter. Just knows how to put the barrel on the ball. Not going to get a ton of power, but that's okay. That's fine.
I wanted to ask you this. So, I mean, obviously, you don't play Major League Baseball, but do you think all these different knobs
Wait. I don't?
I don't, at least not that I know of.
Oh, Sorry. Okay, I'm all right. Sorry. My bad.
Do you think all these different knobs like actually like affect a player's like hitting? Like Stephen Kwan
Are you
uses
talking
the
about
big knob,
personalities or like the end of a bat?
the end of the bat.
Okay, because there are a
Like
lot of knobs in Major League Baseball. Let's
no,
be
but
real.
like Stephen Kwan's got like like the big circular knob. Jeff McNeil doesn't really have like a knob. You got Mookie Betts with the axe handle. Like, do you think that really affects like a player's swing, or do you think it's just for looks?
I think it's mostly comfort. Paul O'Neill used to wrap his pinky over the knob, and I did that to a certain extent. I did that for a while until I got hit on the end of the bat. I got hit on my pinky, and it broke and it hurt. And I was like, well, we're not doing that again. That was kind of dumb, right?
Yeah,
Like just put it out there. Um, but it did. It felt like I don't know. It gave me a little more bat whip. I guess that was like the beginning of like the axe handle, right? Like someone was like, well, why would you
yeah.
do that? I want more bat whip, so they made the axe handle. I just think it's all comfort. I mean, guys have different swings, and I don't mean like they look a little bit different or a different stance or one guy's high, one guy's low, whatever. Guys just hit the ball differently. Like if you look at Freddie Freeman, like he's more comfortable letting the ball travel, and just letting the ball get in a little more, or whatever. And you see a lot of he's got plenty of power to left center. You see a lot of doubles to left field for Freddie Freeman. He's probably not a guy who you're going to see use the axe handle. It's going to be the guys who like to get out and get out in front of the ball and
Mookie
create that
Betts.
good wrist whip. Yeah, Mookie Betts. Guys that are going to create that good wrist whip at the end of their swing that are going to be more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Anybody who's ever broken their wrist or has had wrist problems probably isn't going to be very comfortable with the axe handle. I would imagine that would put some stress on there. But I don't know. They say it makes it more natural, but I think it kind of forces your hand into that pronated.
Yeah,
I
like
don't know.
I
It just sounds like it hurts.
I heard Andre not or somebody talking about Stephen Kwan doing it, and he said he was messing around one day in practice and tried it, and he said that he said it just felt more natural to him.
Okay. Okay. I
And
would
so
love to
now
swing one. I've never swung an axe bat. I would
me
love.
neither.
Yeah, axe
Well
if
no
you're
he doesn't
watching. Yeah.
he doesn't swing an axe bat. Stephen Kwan swings the one with the big barrel.
Right.
It's like this big around.
Yeah.
Like I did I'd like to swing that and just see what it feels like.
Yeah.
Like see if it's any different.
Well, and like I said, I mean, obviously different guys are different. I know when Chipper Jones was younger, he used like a 40-ounce bat.
That's wild.
He did some experimenting with like a 38 or 40-ounce bat, and I don't think he used it right hand. I think it was more when he batted left or whatever. Right handed, I think he used a different bat, a little more of a
That's
normally
wild.
exploded bat. That is wild. Um, there's a lot of I don't know. There's just a lot of I guess not arguing, but just debate about what kind of a bat Babe Ruth used.
Dude,
Some
I've
people
heard
say
his
Babe
bat was
Ruth at
like
one time used a
45
bat that weighed
ounces.
up to 50 ounces. What's that?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So I heard about that Babe Ruth used like a 45-ounce bat. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. I've heard all the way up to 50, and it's like, who knows?
how do you even get that around?
I don't even know. I don't know what's in there. A lead pipe? I don't even know. I have no idea.
Right?
You can bat that heavy. Like, what kind of wood is that made? What kind of wood is that dense that would even in that shape? Whatever. Maybe it was like 40 inches long too. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, that's beside the point. What we want to do a couple of. I guess we've got some soccer to talk about real quick. I just want before we get into the Ohio State stuff. We got to talk about that because the Euro Cup and Copa America are going on basically simultaneously.
Yeah.
And they're almost at the same point. Euro Cup is down to what? Just what? There's a semifinal today, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
England and Netherlands at 3:00 today, right?
Yep.
Or is that that's not a semifinal, is it? Where are we in that?
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Spain's in the final.
Okay.
Yeah, because Spain's in the final.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. You're right. Yeah, Spain. We talked about Spain in France last night.
We
It
did.
blows my mind that France made it all the way to the semifinals of the Euro Cup without scoring a single goal in regulation.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's wild.
I mean, obviously, you get there with what good defense and a really good goalie, right? I mean, you got to have.
Yeah. Because then it goes to penalty kicks. So you got to win penalty kicks.
Yep. You got to prevent
some
goals, obviously, in
I
regulation
don't know.
time.
But dude, I just want to throw this out there for you. So there's a kid who plays for Spain who's 16 years old,
Okay.
and I told my dad, I said I couldn't imagine playing in that big of a tournament at 16 years old.
A lot of pressure.
Like that's a sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
And you're playing against some of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
Like if I was 16 playing against some of the best players in the world, I'd be like pooping my pants. I'd be like, oh crap.
Well,
I'd be like,
but I don't know. I mean, would you if you had been groomed for that your whole life and your whole career?
yeah, I mean, I guess so. Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't feel like such a big moment.
So,
I don't know.
But the funny thing is with him is He's only allowed to play depending on when the games start. If they start later, he can't play the full game because of Germany's work labor laws.
Oh,
Kids under the age of 18 can't work past a certain time, so he has to be subbed out of the game because
he's got a
technically it's his work.
curfew.
Yeah, so technically it's his work, so he can't play.
Do you think he's like embarrassed by that? Like, coach, come on, man. Like, don't take me.
I don't know if he's in. I don't know if he's embarrassed by it, but like you can tell that he's disappointed. Like he gets taken off, like his head's down. He's like,
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he wants to
but like,
compete. Yeah.
but
That's
he,
wild.
the thing I like though about that is I saw a report from Spain that he took his homework to the Euros because like I said, he's a sophomore in high school,
Yeah.
and his teammates were making sure he was doing his homework.
All right.
Like they're like, hey, get your homework done, and then we'll go hang out. Like they'd wait for him to finish his homework, and then they'd all go hang out.
That's cool, man. A little accountability.
Like that.
I like that.
Yeah, like that's cool. Like, and like they weren't like not involving him too. Like they're like, hey, we'll wait for you to finish, and then we'll go hang out.
That's legit, man. That's really cool.
That
That's really
is.
cool. And listen, there's a reason that you said that was Spain?
Yeah.
There's a reason they're in the final, right? Like
Yep.
that kind of chemistry and that kind of camaraderie, like that makes a difference in sports. I
Yep.
mean, it doesn't matter what sport you play. It doesn't matter if it's, baseball, soccer, football, wrestling. I guess you don't have a whole lot of camaraderie. And I mean, you guys are there over there cheering you on, but I don't know. I just think that's kind of cool.
I mean, I saw a clip of that. He got fouled super hard, and one of the older players goes up and like shoves a guy. He's like, "How about you pick on somebody your own age?" And the 16-year-old stands up and he's like telling his teammate like, "Hey, like like I can stand up for myself."
Right.
And the guy apparently what was said between him and the other player was like, "Hey, he's like you're 16." He's like, "I'm a grown man." He's like, he's picking on the kid. He goes, "Let me stand up for you."
Right.
And it's like,
you chill out, go do your homework. I got this.
Yeah, like that, like you said, like just that team chemistry, like that's how you get far in tournaments because like you got each other's back no matter what happens.
Oh, it absolutely makes a difference. I've played on teams where, a bunch of guys didn't get along and the team was okay, and I played on teams where it was like a family, and those teams are always much better.
Yep.
Record wise, you can see it.
Yep.
You can definitely see it. So yeah, Spain beats France 2-1. France finally scores a goal in regulation.
They
time,
did.
And
They
look
did.
what happens, right? They should have just held off, right? So yeah, England and Netherlands today at 3:00. Is that right? 3 Eastern.
I believe
Yeah,
so.
just
I believe so. Yeah.
45 minutes.
I personally, I want England to win, but I think Netherlands are going. I just think they're too good.
Okay.
But
and then the
I
championship
think
will be what, the 14th. So that's in 4 days.
I believe so. Yeah. I believe so. Yeah.
Sunday. Okay, that's in. Is that in Germany?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I thought I had seen that back at the beginning of the tournament when it started. I couldn't remember.
And
Berlin,
then
correct? It's in Berlin.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. And if not, we'll get it right. I mean, we've got time. We're not gonna, don't go on our account. Like, don't go to Berlin because Chad and Ben said so. Like, look it up, Google it. Make sure we don't want to send anybody to Berlin without due cause. And also, like I said, the Copa America is happening right now. And where are we in that? I think Argentina just beat Canada in the semifinals 2-0.
Yeah.
Right?
And then there's a semifinal game on tonight as well.
Yeah, Uruguay and Colombia, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so
cool. I got Colombia winning.
Both of those tournaments are tonight. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I got Colombia winning that game. Colombia's they haven't lost in like their last 27 matches.
Gotcha.
They do. They're incredible.
The final for that is the 14th as well. Argentina will play whoever wins that Uruguay-Colombia matchup. That'll be Sunday night at 8:00 on Fox. It'll be on Fox actually. So.
But you got Argentina, who is the greatest soccer player to ever grace the planet. So.
Yeah. Right.
And Lionel Messi. So speaking of Copa America, so the Copa America is in the United States this year.
Okay.
In 2026, the United States is hosting the World Cup. And the fields during Copa America, all the players say they hate the fields because a bunch of them is just grass laid down over turf.
Gotcha.
So it's like the ball is not rolling well.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Like players are getting hurt.
Yeah.
And all the players are saying that if it's like this during the World Cup, they're all going to protest and not play.
Yeah, they got to get that straight. They've got 2 years to figure it out.
Yeah, and that's what. And the fields are also smaller too than what like a right. So in soccer, you can have fields that are narrower.
Okay.
That are smaller. You just can't have fields that are shorter this way.
Okay.
So, but during the World Cup, they have to be regulation size. So they're gonna have to figure out at all these stadiums how to make them regulation size.
Gotcha.
And if they can't, that stadium can't host a World Cup game then.
Well, they better get the surface figured out because listen, nobody wants to get
Yeah.
hurt playing in the
No.
stands, right? I mean,
No.
obviously that's these guys' main concern. I know people will be like, "Oh, you're worried about the surface." Well, I mean, of course they're worried about the surface. That's their livelihood. I mean,
Yeah.
you go to plant, on some grass that's laid down over turf and it gives way and you tear your ACL and you're done for 12, 14 months. I mean, that's
Yep.
of course there's a concern there. I mean, that's
And
not being soft. That's being concerned about your livelihood, your way to make money.
and when Lionel Messi, the greatest player in the world, says that he basically kind of refuses to play on turf,
Yeah.
you're kind of forced your hand to get something figured out because
Listen,
you
yeah,
don't
if LeBron
you
said
don't want you,
tomorrow, "Hey NBA, I'm sick of playing on hardwood. Can we get the NBA would be they'd have guys tearing up planks of wood in every arena across the nation right now, putting in another surface, man, whatever it was
yep,
that would make. I mean, and maybe LeBron's a little bit past that age where he could make that happen. He is like 74, but he's the guy, right? Like he's the guy.
yep,
It feels like everything that happens in the NBA runs through LeBron James sometimes,
yeah,
whether you like it or not. That's kind of the way it is, right?
yep.
So
And I,
yeah, I understand.
and I encourage people, if you want to get into soccer, I would encourage you. This would be the time, especially American soccer fans, because next couple of years it's going to be very, very important for American soccer. So you're look if you're looking to get into soccer, if you're an average soccer fan, I would start watching because we got to. This is considered the golden generation of American soccer. So I would
Yeah.
tune in
Do we
and
have any
watch because
chance the men's World Cup, right? Do we have any chance, USA, Team USA, to do anything to make any
if
noise?
if we get rid of our head coach, yes.
Okay, fair enough. That
If we
seems to
don't,
be the sentiment across the board.
if we
I don't know what
don't,
else about it, but
if we don't, we have no shot
okay,
at all. We have zero chance.
there you go.
It'll be just like Copa America. We won't make it out of the group stage,
Gotcha. That's
which is disappointing.
a little bit of maybe not an embarrassment, but it's a
No, it's
disappointment.
an embarrassment.
Okay, it's an embarrassment. I didn't want to say that, but that's fine.
You have the golden generation of American soccer.
Yeah,
All your players play for European clubs for the first time ever, and you can't make it out of the group stage of a Copa America tournament.
yeah, it's
That's
a tough look.
pretty embarrassing, if you ask
It's
me.
a tough look for sure. Yeah, for sure.
But
Anything
so let's move
else?
on to not
Yeah.
really
Okay.
that I can think of.
The
Maybe
only
let's
other
move on
headlines
to
I saw
some.
Paul George signed with the Sixers. We talked
I
about
did see
maybe
that,
Paul
yeah.
George to Cleveland. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but he's been
No.
talked about here for at least 10 years now. It feels.
Hey, the only thing that's going to stop that Sixers team is knee injuries. But
Yeah, yeah. It seems like like you said, maybe the only thing that can stop themselves is themselves, right? Or is that can stop them is themselves. Yeah, that looks like a really scary team in the East all of a sudden.
if they can stay healthy,
Yeah, and you look at it, and you look at a team like the Cavs, like new head coach. There's going to be at least a difference there. But you can't look at anything the Cavs have done in the offseason and go, well, the Cavs got that much better too. Um,
I don't think the Cavs got better.
yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. You just can't
But
look at anything and say, hey, they're better.
but
Are they going to
I
just
am going to
stand
say this
pat?
though.
Are they going to try to do that?
I I don't know. I feel like they make some moves here soon, but I also feel like they have to wait for the Olympics to be over because their head coach is part of the Spain's coaching staff or part of France's coaching staff.
Okay.
So like, can't really do much with him in France.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see he
But
took credit for the draft pick? I thought that was really funny.
I did.
I mean, he had nothing to do. That it was like the organization was like, "Hey, here's a player," and he was like, "Thanks." That was pretty funny.
But no, the thing that he said is his biggest goal that he wants to accomplish is developing Evan Mobley into a great 3-point shooter.
Okay.
That's what the Cavs need. You can't run two big men out there that have the same play style.
No, you can't. No, you
He
can't.
wants
And
to
if Mobley
develop
doesn't develop really quickly, I think you could see Jared Allen go next year at the trade deadline,
for
regardless
sure,
of how the Cavs look or what they're doing.
for
I think
sure.
they're going to be forced to make a move. Where does Mobley have to be? I mean, as far as a 3-point shooter, I mean, we don't expect him to shoot like 40-45% from out there. Like,
No, but here's the thing. He
what's
has to.
reasonable for him?
I think if he's like a Kevin Love, attempting like 4 to 6 a game
Okay.
and making 2 to 3,
Okay.
I
Okay.
I think that's a perfect. I think it's a perfect number for him.
Okay. So you think like, okay, he could get hot and hit 6 or 7.
Yeah,
You got to go guard him, right? You got
yeah,
to send somebody out there. That's the ideal plan, right?
yep,
If you're the Cavs, you want another team to feel like, hey, we got to go out. We can't just leave Mobley out there with the ball. Like, we can't just sag in the middle and wait for something to happen. Like, we got to go out there and get on him, right? And
yeah.
that's when the ball movement kicks in. I think that's where Kenny Atkinson being with the Golden State Warriors for so long, well, not for so long, but just long
No,
enough,
yeah,
to kind of get used to
but
whatever. I mean, that ball move. I hope to see some of that ball movement here.
but going back to what you said about ball movement, you look at that Cavs team that had Kevin Love. LeBron would get the ball top of the key. He'd kick it to Kevin Love in the corner. Love would throw past LeBron. LeBron inside to Thompson. Thompson dunk. It's like, okay, that was quick.
Yeah.
I mean, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. I even think even if he can develop Jared Allen into a somewhat decent 3-point shooter, like if you can develop both your bigs into a 3-point shooting team, it opens up the floor a whole lot more
Yeah. Yeah.
because then you can run five out. And when you run five out, you can get Garland and Donovan Mitchell in one-on-ones and mismatches. You can set screens, get them into mismatches. Whereas if one of them can't shoot, they're just going to sit in the paint, and it's hard to run a screen. It's hard to run pick and roll.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, if you can spread the floor a little more, I think you don't necessarily have to have, Garland and Mitchell always have the ball in their hands to be effective, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree because then you can run more plays like we saw with or like you saw on that prime Miami Heat team. You can have Donovan Mitchell backdoor cut, alley oop to Mitchell, throw it down.
Yep. Yeah, create
Like
some space in other ways, right? Create some space for these guys
like
to move in other ways. Exactly.
like you look at that Miami Heat team. Chris Bosh wasn't known as a 3-point shooter. He came to Miami. He was able to shoot the ball a little bit,
Yeah.
and that made teams have to respect him. And then he gets the ball, and LeBron's in the corner. LeBron cuts back door. He throws an alley oop. LeBron dunks it.
Yep.
It's like even if you can get Jared Allen to shoot like 30% from three,
Yep. And the biggest thing, the Cavs are going to have to stay healthy, man. They're going to have to stay
they,
healthy.
yeah, they're going to.
They just had I mean, and really look at what they accomplished last year, even though, I mean, they were really, really banged up for probably the
Yeah,
first
they
two
were.
thirds of the season. And then Mitchell gets hurt. Everybody got hurt at the end. I mean, but they still accomplished some things. I mean,
They did.
sometimes we get caught up in results. And it's like, well, they didn't win. They didn't even, they didn't compete, but they did compete in that series. I know they only won one game against the Celtics, but when you're missing your best player for over half the series, I mean, I think that's pretty impressive, actually. I thought they did well.
Yeah.
Oh, I keep saying that, but nobody's listening to me.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think there's some games that they could have won without Donovan Mitchell too.
Yeah. Yeah. They were close in a couple of those games.
Like
They
that
were
game
close.
where that game where Garland had like 34 or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
that's a game that you could have won.
Mm-hmm. You won't say should
But
have. You can't say should have because the Celtics dominated on the way to a title. But you can say they could have won that game. Yeah. And maybe
yeah,
that changes the complexion of the series. I don't know. Maybe it tightens the Celtics up a little bit. Who knows? Who really knows? But we want to move on to college football, specifically the Ohio State Buckeyes, right?
OSU,
Because
OSU.
yeah, Ben has terrible taste in NFL teams. I don't know what that's about. I don't know how it happened to you, but at least you like the Buckeyes. That's good, right? Like
Yeah,
I don't know, a Penn State fan or something. That'd be weird. Or like Pitt. I know a lot of
we
people that
are
actually really
Penn
root hard
State.
for Pitt. You know what I mean? Like,
I
and that's
know
cool.
they're
That's
dude.
cool. Hey, Pitt might sneak into a few playoffs now with the 12-team playoff, right? Like,
Mm,
it could happen.
could
Not probably not
could.
this year, but I don't know.
Probably not.
I think NIL makes it tougher too. Even though there are 12 teams now,
Yeah,
I think the NIL, that aspect makes it a little bit tougher to really get
they
those
should just
players.
name the college football playoffs the NIL playoffs. Whatever team can give teams the most players the most money.
Seriously. Yeah, seriously.
Just
It'll
call
be
it
the
the
top
NIL
12.
12-team college football playoff.
Yeah, it'll be the top 12 richest teams in the nation pretty
Yep,
much.
that'll be
But that's
called
what
the.
it's been for. That's what it's been for years anyway. It's
Yeah,
always been the haves and the have-nots, right?
I
At
should
some
reach
point,
out to. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. You're fine.
I said I should reach out to NCAA and tell them that they should name it the NIL 12-team college football playoff.
Seriously, the all-money playoff. Where do you want to start with the Buckeyes? Do you want to talk about what's coming, or do you want to talk about what's
I
here now?
Let's talk about what's here now, but I have a question for you. So I mean,
Go
we
ahead.
talked about it off the show. I'm just
Sure.
gonna open up with this. Is Ryan Day on the hot seat?
Uh, I mean, I think the perception. And I know everybody says perception is everything, um, and perception is reality. On top of that, I listen. I guess the perception is that he is on the hot seat, but and hear me out. Um, I think with his particular style of coaching, I think he's the guy you want to lead this team into the era of the 12-team playoff, right? Um,
I agree. Yeah.
Ryan Day doesn't really lose to the teams that he should beat. Obviously, there have been some games. They were probably more talented on paper than Michigan last year in the last couple of years. Um, but we don't know. There are still a lot of unknowns about Michigan's game, and I saw one of my cousins over the weekend, and I said, "Hey, I haven't had the chance to really congratulate you on the national title." He's a Michigan fan, and I said, I haven't congratulated. I'm not going to do the sign stealing. I'm not going to do that.
They
It's
did
just
though,
hard
but
enough to watch your team win a national. It's so few and far between. I'm not going to do that to him. I'm not going to sit there and do that. So I was like, listen, congratulations on the title. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea if they're going to take it that far to vacate it. I don't think they will now at this point. Um, but whatever. It doesn't matter. We don't really know what was going on for those 3 seasons. We have no idea. Maybe the Buckeyes just got outplayed, outcoached, outsmarted in every aspect of the game. Sometimes it looked like that, right? Um, but it's also, really easy to look like you're outsmarting another team when you know what's coming, right?
hmm
I don't know. But I feel like this year, and for some reason, people like to act like they got blown out last year. Okay, you know, McCord didn't play well in that game
no,
at
nope,
all.
nope,
Um, that first pick was an absolute backbreaker,
yep. And
especially
if
when
you
you
go
know how
back,
that game ended up. They lost by
yeah,
6 points, right?
yeah.
Um,
And if you go back and look at that last throw to Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Marvin Harrison Jr. tried everything he could to get a fingertip on it. He's running across the middle.
yeah,
He literally stops. He's reaching like this across his body, turning, trying to get a hand on it so it doesn't go to the Michigan defender.
yeah,
There's no reason why your best player should be running a slant wide open across the field and you throw it 4 feet behind him.
yeah. And people still blame Marvin Harrison Jr. for that, by the way.
Yeah,
That's
they
wild.
do. And that's the bad part.
I,
And
apparently, you're
that's
supposed to be
why
able to move your body in 2 different directions at one time. I don't
and
know
that's
how
why
that
Kyle
happened.
McCord that's why Kyle McCord's at Syracuse now. So
Yeah, yeah. That's probably most of the reason. I mean, he just I could be totally wrong. Some guys have come out and said that he was the ultimate competitor, right? Like he was the guy that got them, fired up in the clubhouse and or in the locker room. I mean, before games and in, whatever pregame huddles, he was the guy who was really vocal. I don't want to say I don't believe them, but I just never saw that out of him. He just
yeah, me neither.
to me, and I could be totally wrong. It's hard to judge someone just from watching them on TV. But he always looked like he was just a little bit intimidated by the moment to me, and maybe he wasn't. Maybe that's so far removed from him.
The
I could be
only
totally wrong.
I mean I agree with you, but the only time I saw Kyle McCord like stare fear in the eye and like completely annihilate it was that Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
You're down 30
Yep.
you're down with 35 seconds left and you lead a incredible game-winning drive.
Yep.
Incredible game-winning drive. I mean that was Notre Dame's fault. They played the last play with 10 men on the field, but we're not
That's
going to
too
take that
bad.
away
Yeah.
from we're not going to take that away from Kyle McCord cuz
No.
that throw he made to Marvin Harrison Jr. at the
Yep.
goal line was incredible.
On the
Probably one of the
third and
best
17, right?
yeah, probably one of the best throws I've seen in college football.
Yeah.
Talk about threading the needle. That dude put the ball in between two defenders where only his guy could catch it.
Yeah. He really did.
But then
He
he could
really did.
barely beat Indiana and Rutgers. So
Well, and sometimes you play up and down to your competition. That's human nature. Um, but there is no McCord. Like you said, there's no more
nope.
McCord. There's no more Kyle McCord. We don't have to. He didn't graduate. He just moved on, right? Um, kind of unceremoniously. It felt like I don't know. It's like a public execution in a way. It was sort of like I don't
hmm
know. It felt like the Buckeye said, "Hey, we don't want you here anymore," and he said, "I oblige. I'm gone."
Yeah.
So now we're looking at this. We've got a depth chart that's interesting to me because you've got a guy that transferred in, right? And a lot of people say, well, he doesn't get the rivalry, he doesn't know the offense, he doesn't know this, he doesn't know that, he can't be the starting quarterback. I don't know. I mean, he took Kansas State to 2 straight Big 12 championship games, right? 1-1. Um, do you? I mean, I don't know. Do you have a problem with Will Howard leading this offense?
Here's the thing. I don't because the first day he came in, he said my whole goal is to beat. He didn't even say their name. He said my whole goal is to beat TTUN. He goes. I've studied this rivalry. He goes. I know what it's about. He goes. Played a big part as to why I came here. He goes. I want to beat that team up north.
Fair.
And when he comes in, and you got a guy saying that, and you're like, okay, like this guy means business. Like Kyle McCord went as far to say is like Ohio State players, they don't mention the word Michigan. They don't say it at all. And when Kyle McCord is saying it during the week of the Michigan game,
Yeah.
does he really know the rivalry that well?
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it's really hard to judge, and I admit I could be totally wrong. I would never say that anything that I say on this show or any other show, um, in the form of an opinion is a fact. I'm not that guy. I'm just never going to be that guy. But it never looked like Kyle McCord wanted to be here. It just never looked like he really wanted to be. Not
I
he.
agree.
It never looked like he wanted to be in Columbus or not like the moment was too big for him. It just looked like I don't know. For some reason, there was a disconnect there, right?
No, I feel you.
Um, Not the way that JT Barrett looked, right? At the quarterback. Like, JT Barrett looked like he belonged in scarlet and gray under center, didn't he?
Yep.
I
So
mean,
did so did Justin Fields.
yeah, Justin
So did
Fields, so did
so did
CJ
CJ
Stroud, so
Stroud.
did Braxton Miller, so did like these
Dwayne
guys looked like
Haskins.
Ohio State. Yeah, yeah. Cardell Joe, everybody, these guys, they all looked like Ohio State
I
quarterbacks.
and I speaking of what you just said about not looking like they wanted to be here. I don't know if you did you see the tweet that Dwayne Haskins put out, or not Dwayne Haskins, Cardell Jones.
No,
He said I haven't taken a snap for the Scarlet and Gray in over 10 years, and he's like, it feels like I still play there.
man, right? Yeah. I
Like,
mean, that's a guy. It's in his blood, right? Like
yeah,
that's in his. It's in his
like
DNA. Yeah.
it feels like you played here because you won us a national title. Like when you do that, you're gonna be remembered forever
Yeah.
in the
And
Scarlet and
sometimes I
Gray.
wonder what that relationship is like with him and Urban Meyer now still. Because I mean, some people would tell you that playing Cardell Jones that next year is kind of what started Urban on the way out, right? Like obviously there were some things that went down that were off the field. Um, but I think that next season where they had that kind of quarterback controversy, I think that made it easier for people to move on from Urban Meyer as an Ohio
Yeah.
State fan, right?
Sh-
Um,
Shout out
and
to
then
Nick.
also,
Shout out to our boy Nick. I mean, me and him talk about that all the time. That's kind of what ended Ohio State is you played. I mean, yeah, both quarterbacks played all 12 games, but
yeah,
Ohio State's offense didn't look good under Cardell Jones, and Urban Meyer just kept running them out there.
yeah. I mean, I get, I completely understand the loyalty. I mean, the guy.
Won you a national title. It's hard to bench a guy that wins you a national title.
Right, but he was third
Like,
string for a reason, right? Like,
yeah, like
no offense to him, that's not a knock on him. He's a great
no, yeah,
dude. He was a great competitor, you know.
but like,
Whatever.
but like I tell people, I said, you look at national, you look at his national title games. Yeah, Cardell Jones didn't play bad, but the star of that show was Ezekiel Elliott. That dude literally ran through the heart of Alabama and Oregon.
Yeah,
The
and
whole
you
goal
had to
for
put 8, 9 guys in the box, and then it makes it a lot easier to throw up over the top when
yeah,
you got a guy like Devin Smith going to get it. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
yeah. I mean, like you look at like Ezekiel Elliott ran for over 200 yards against Alabama.
yep.
You know the last time that's happened?
I do not know.
Neither do I. But it's all I know is that it like Zeke Elliott was the first guy to do it in like 15 years.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I
that's
mean, Saban wasn't a big, giving up rushing yards kind of head
no.
coach, man. Like that,
And
that
Zeke
Alabama defense was always very stingy in when it came to run defense.
Zeke had that run down the middle, that like 70-yard run down the middle of the field, and dude, you're like,
No, it was like 86. It was like 86
yeah,
yards.
dude, it was.
Or 80, whatever it was. Yeah.
But
That was a crazy play. That was like, man,
I
when
mean,
he broke that, I was like, they're gonna win the national title. Like that's it.
dude,
They're gonna win the title.
they broke in. I was like, they're beating Bama.
Yep.
And then you
Oh,
go
I
to the
didn't even
Oregon game.
I didn't even think about Oregon. I didn't even think twice. Like
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be that way, but I just didn't think Oregon would even compete in that game. I
No,
knew
yeah.
about all the speed, but look at all the mistakes that Ohio State made in that championship game against Oregon, and they still beat them by multiple scores. Like,
Yeah. But
oh
but talking about that though, like they made all those mistakes, but then all Carter Jones had to do was turn around, hand the ball to Zeke, and he's gonna get you 9, 10 yards of carry.
yeah, that's pretty wild. I mean, that makes your job as a quarterback a lot easier.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
does.
it really does. And speaking of quarterbacks, I don't know. Right now, I'm looking at the two deep, and this is you can go to 11warriors.com. This is an article written by Dan Hope. This is where I'm getting the two deep, or at least the whole depth chart, more than a two deep here. That was an article from back in May, a little bit after the spring game. So if you're wondering where I'm getting this information, it's not. I didn't just put this together, and um, I don't have that kind of time on my hands right now. But yeah, thanks for that. That's like I said, that's where we're getting the depth chart from. But they've got Devin Brown right now in that backup spot at quarterback. And I mean, talk about a guy who just like keeps getting bad break after bad break, man. Like it just keeps getting hurt. Um,
Yeah.
I was really excited to see what he was going to do against Missouri. Weren't
Oh,
you?
me too. Yeah, I was. I was excited.
And it felt like he got hurt in warmups. Like he was just out of there so fast. And then you had to go to Keenholz, who no fault of Keenholz. He just didn't know the offense. He hadn't
Nope.
practiced with the ones or twos all year. Um, and it was very evident. And people like to dump on him and say, well, it's proof that he's not able to. That means that I truly believe that most people don't understand how football really works. When you say something like that, it's not like these guys all have unlimited time with the ones and twos and they just learn the offense from a first person standpoint all year. I mean,
Yeah,
that's not the way
like
it works. You're at best you're watching film and you're watching from the sidelines at practice, and you might go run some scout team reps if somebody's whatever. I mean, the fourth string quarterback at Ohio State, you're gonna have a lot of different duties, and most of
that's
them aren't gonna be practice with that first squad, right?
no, and that's what made the Cardinal Jones run so impressive. Is I mean, yeah, I get it. He had those weeks to practice to the first team, but
Yep.
JT Barrett
It's
gets
just
hurt
a
in
few
that mission.
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, like JT Barrett gets hurt in that Michigan game. Like talking about what you said, like JT Barrett had all those seasons with that same team, so he knew where players were going to be, when they were going to be there, when the ball had to come out.
Yep.
Like
But
you
you
said,
know
you
what?
look at
Okay, one thing that I noticed about JT Barrett, I could be wrong. I feel like he was quicker on his release earlier in his career.
he
I,
was.
I feel like the later his career went, the more he was like, I don't know, afraid to make a turnover, afraid to make a
I
big
but
mistake, whatever, right?
it was, but that's been the way with every Meyer quarterback is once they learn the spread and he makes it more complex, they start trying to go through their reads more and more, and that's why he relied so much on his feet later in his career
Okay.
because
Yeah.
he would try to get through his reads, and then nobody would be open, or he wouldn't see anybody open, so he would take off and run even though there was a guy wide open.
Yeah. And I see Will Howard as that kind of a guy. Like, not the guy who's going to rely on his legs, but certainly a guy who's going to run more than CJ Stroud did. And I think that he's not super fast. He's not gifted athletically
But
the
he's
way
six
Braxton
foot
Miller
five.
was. Yeah, yeah. He's not going to run like Braxton Miller. He's not going to be like, the
No,
human highlight reel out there. But I think he's going to be like JT Barrett in the sense that he just always kind of knows, if you need 8.5 yards for a first down, he's going to use his legs to get you 8 3/4, right? Like, he's just always going to get right there. He's always going to be competitive for the first down, whatever. Barrett just seemed to always have a nose for that kind of stuff.
he
And
did.
yeah, he was just the ultimate competitor. And I know people wanted to see all the flashy throws from JT Barrett, and he wasn't that kind of a guy. But really, when you've got a quarterback that can limit mistakes and go make the small little plays like that with his legs, I mean, that's what it takes to win in college football. We've seen it over and over and
That's
over again.
that's exactly what I tell people. Like, oh, you were a big JT Barrett fan, yeah, because he knew how to win football games at Ohio State.
Yep.
It's just unfortunate that when he played here, it was during the BCS era.
Yeah, unfortunate. He was like the Derek Jeter. He was the captain, right? Like, he was like the guy by the
He's
time
the
his
only
career was over.
five-year captain in Ohio State history.
Yeah.
He
Yep.
was voted a captain as a freshman.
I mean, the dude's just like, his football IQ was off the charts. Off the what? Off the charts. His competitive acumen. I mean, he was such a competitive guy. I mean, I really like JT Barrett. I wasn't a part of the people who were happy to see him move on because I don't know. I guess it's just a huge unknown, right? At quarterback, it's a
Sure.
really, really scary situation when you have to replace your quarterback. When they were that good, when they won that many games. But let me
Yep.
read you some names real quick. We're still talking about just right now the first team offense. Okay, let me read you 5 names, and I want to see how you feel about these names: Josh Simmons, Donovan Jackson, Seth McLaughlin. We know he's coming from Alabama. Tegra Shabola and Josh Fryer. Is that an offensive line that's good enough to take the Buckeyes to a national title this year?
Um,
Or at least can they be? It's going to take, obviously, they're going to mold into something different,
I
by the time the 14th and 15th games come around. But what do you think about
I
that?
feel like I feel like they can be,
Okay.
but in college, you don't have to be elite to win a national title. Like
Okay.
we've seen it before. Like if you have elite players around your offensive line, they just have to be decent.
Mhm.
Like you
I
look
think it's
at some of those.
understanding assignments and understanding the offense more than going out there and being a physically
It
dominating
definitely is.
five-star kind of a guy, right?
Definitely is. Definitely is. Like yeah, you look at that Michigan offensive line. Yeah, they had studs all along the board, right?
Mhm.
But they also knew their assignments. They knew the offense. They knew what job they had
That's
to
it. I was
do.
going to say, why were they studs? Is it because they were the 5 most impressive guys physically in the nation? No. No. It's because they understood their role within the offense and they knew how to play together and how to play cohesively.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, okay, now I want to read you two guys' names, and you tell me
Okay.
what you think of them.
Fair enough.
Trayvon Henderson, and Quinshon Judkins.
It's the best running back duo in the country.
Yeah, it's not even close.
No, it's not close. Oh,
It's
it's
not even
ridiculous.
close.
It's ridiculous. Now, okay, let's back it up for a second, because if we had Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins here, and it was Ryan Day still calling the plays with no help in the spread offense, I'm not gonna lie to you, Ben. I would be a little bit nervous that there would be
Oh, I would be too. I
just a
would be
little bit
too.
of a misuse there of those two guys, right?
I would be too.
Now we've got Chip Kelly. I don't think anybody's ever been better at running out of the spread than Chip Kelly as far
Oh,
as a coach
definitely not.
goes.
No,
So
definitely not.
yeah, and now Ryan Day, speaking about do or die, not win or die. When I'm not gonna take him out, we know that. Speaking about do or die, he's given up the play calling responsibilities,
Which
right?
I
To
think he should have. Think he should have done years ago.
right, and who would he give them to?
Arguably one of the best play callers in college football history.
There you go, and a guy who knows how to run out of the spread offense. I think you're going to see a different offense out of this team this year,
I do too.
completely different.
And I think this offense. Here's the thing. I think if you give our previous offenses Chip Kelly, I think we win like 2 or 3 national titles.
I agree. I don't think Chip Kelly keeps the restraints on C.J. Stroud that way.
No,
Listen. I get we were all concerned what was going to happen if Stroud got hurt. I get it. But
Stroud, he's also one of those guys that he's tough. He's like he's like Justin Fields.
yeah,
Justin Fields took that hit against Clemson, was out for one play, came back in and threw for 340 yards and 6 touchdowns.
right, and threw a really nice pass. Right, I mean, on the next immediate play, if you remember, he threw a
Yeah,
touchdown. He threw a laser for a touchdown on the
yeah.
next play. He came back.
Like we saw what happened when Ryan Day opened up the playbook
Mm-hmm.
and let CJ Stroud run against Georgia. Georgia's defense looked like they were clueless. They looked the best defense in the country looked confused.
By
They're like,
far,
wait.
the best defense in the country. Yeah.
They're like, wait, we've never seen this before. What do we do, coach? They're all looking at Kirby Smart like, what do we do?
Right.
What are we supposed to do here?
It was the same way that Alabama was looking at Cardell Jones. I can't remember the safety's name. Landon something. What was his name? Do you remember? I can't remember his name. Cardell Jones absolutely ran him over.
Yeah, I remember that.
He was just never the same after that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't. It's not funny. Like his career was just never like he just never. Physically, he was never the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of the same way that people were looking at Cardell Jones, like, okay, like this guy's a physical specimen, and he's going to run the ball out of the backfield. Like, we're in trouble here. You know what I mean? We're in a little bit of trouble. You remember that game? They were down 20-6 to Alabama.
I do.
I mean,
I do.
I mean, I want
to. I just want to touch on our defense too.
Yeah.
We're pretty much returning just about everybody except our linebackers.
Yeah.
Like you're returning your starting corners.
Yeah.
You went out. You got Caleb Downs, who's the best safety in college football. And I want to ask you this: saw a report about Caleb Downs maybe playing both sides of the football. What's your thoughts on that?
Where do you put him? Is he like the third running back? Because I mean, where are you going to use Caleb Downs? I mean, right now you've got a true freshman as your number one wide receiver in the depth chart, and not because talent is low there.
No, but I mean, he's been sitting in on running back meetings. I mean, I feel like you have to put him a running back, but I feel like you use him in situations where it's like, okay, like we want to pass here, but we don't want to have one of our running backs in the game. You line him up out there and say, hey, go catch us a ball if we need you to.
Use him like an H-back a little bit, like the old H-back position a little bit. Yeah.
Kind of like they did with Curtis Samuel.
Could he be, Urban Meyer when he was here we were always looking for the Percy Harvin guy, right? Caleb Downs isn't that. He's not going to be like the speed burner. He's not like a absolute 4-1 like vertically run over and he's gone, right? But I think he's the guy who, listen, when you play a lot of defense, especially pass defense, I think you understand like a little better where to go on the field to be open, right? In those situations, you kind of know how to settle in against a certain type of zone. If they're playing a cover 2, you know where to go to get. I think you have a little bit of an advantage there, don't you? Does that make sense?
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, like if there's a pass play, like you're gonna understand like where the weak spots are. Yeah. You understand where you need to be, like where you're gonna be open at.
On that defense, you're gonna know.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is the spot of the field we can't necessarily cover.
Yeah.
If we do this against the team, they've got 11 guys out there. They've got the same physical limit. Like it's the same thing, right?
Yep.
I think that's an advantage.
But now let me ask you this:
yeah.
do you want Caleb Downs playing both sides of the ball? Or here, let me phrase it like this: do you think he should, and do you want him to?
Okay, that's I want him to. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be dynamic. I think he can help. I don't necessarily know if he should. Um, listen, if there's a need, then yeah, put him out there. I mean,
I agree.
you don't want to hold back. This is like saying, hey, we don't want CJ Stroud to run because we don't want him to get hurt, right? Um, it turns out, looking back on it, hindsight's always 2020, but there was a need, right? There was a need to have CJ Stroud be able to get out of the pocket and move. Um, Unfortunately, we didn't see it happen until Georgia, and it nearly was the difference in the game. Um, by the way, I know everybody wants to say, it was a targeting on Marvin. I don't think that was a targeting penalty. I don't think that should have been targeting.
No.
I thought I can't remember who made the hit now. I just can't remember his name, but I thought it was a clean hit. I thought he led with the shoulder. I don't know what you want a guy to do. Is he supposed to give up a touchdown at the back of the end zone? Because people were saying it was like a dirty hit. Um, I'm really confused by that. I mean, football's kind of a violent game. Like
Yeah.
what was he supposed to have done?
No.
I
Yeah.
just didn't see any other way out of that play for him. I thought it was the perfect play. I thought it was a great play, honestly. Um, was it unfortunate that Harrison ended up hitting his head on the turf and was out? I mean, yeah, of course that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But speaking on that though, like you said, that should have been a touchdown. But then if you look late in the game, right before that play where CJ Stroud threw the ball away, he missed Emeka Buka wide open on Georgia's sideline, jumping up and down, waving his hands. Didn't even look at him. And Emeka Buka was wide open and would have had a walk-in touchdown.
Yeah. At the very least, it would have been a very, very short field goal attempt.
Yeah.
If they could have gotten to him. Yeah.
And you're still going to blame Georgia for knocking out Marvin Harrison when the most crucial play of the game on a 3rd and 9 from like the 42-yard line, CJ Stroud didn't look at your best receiver that was available in the game.
Yeah, there were just mistakes made on the offense. There were mistakes,
Yeah.
a couple of mistakes, I think, in play calling there. Yeah.
He knew. CJ Stroud even said, he goes, I knew the route would be open. I never looked at it.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, you don't need to get all 50 yards on one play.
Sure don't. Nope.
Like, I mean, like you said, hindsight's 2020, but
yeah, of course.
But
it's the same way with Chris Olave breaking off his route in the back of the end zone against Clemson. I mean, listen, Ryan Day is probably realistically, right, 3 kind of weird blown plays away from playing for 3 national championships while he's here.
Yeah.
I mean, we want him gone. People want him. I don't say we. People want him gone.
Oh, write it down. Chad wants him gone.
It's mind blowing.
You guys heard that?
Go ahead, write it down. Yeah, all the people watching can write that down. But yeah, I don't know.
I agree with you.
I'm just confused by that. You know what I mean?
But so I want to ask you this though.
Yeah.
Do you think our defense is as good as it was last year? Do you think it's better? Do you think it's worse?
I think it should be better. You worry about linebacker play a little bit, but I mean, I've always been excited about seeing CJ Hicks get his chance, and here he is.
Yeah.
He's out here now. I don't know. I mean, because some of the guys that we've had have turned they just kind of turned into those like steady guys who you knew kind of where they were going to be, but they weren't dynamic, right? Like
Yeah.
It's not like I don't know, not like some of the linebackers that Ohio State certainly had in their past. They were just sort of dependable. Like if CJ Hicks and Cody Simon or some, I don't know, some combination of these guys like Sonny Styles, it looks like he's going to get some run at linebacker. If some kind of combination of those guys can go out and be those athletic, like Ohio State hasn't had a guy like Ryan Shazier since Ryan Shazier. And that, I know they're few and far between, but that hurts. Like Shazier, I think, was so underrated when he was here. He was sideline to sideline, making plays.
Oh, dude.
I mean, he was unbelievable.
Dude, he was underrated on the Steelers too.
Yeah.
Like there has not been a linebacker like Ryan Shazier since Ryan Shazier. Like, name me a linebacker in today's game that can go out there and cover a slot receiver as good as Ryan Shazier. I'll wait. Anybody tell me who?
I can't think of anybody. I maybe
even at Ohio State. At Ohio State, he did it.
Yeah. He was unbelievable. Sometimes he looked like he was 2 people out there. He would cover so much ground sideline to sideline. And it was really impressive. I remember there was a game, I think they played Illinois, that I was watching him play. And he had like 11 or 13 tackles, but they were like effort tackles. It wasn't just like, oh, let's everybody, the defensive line took up space and here comes the running back. I'm just going to lay on him and here's the tackle. No, I was like him going.
Do you remember
the side of the field and chasing guys down? I mean, it was impressive.
Do you remember that?
Good.
you remember the interception? I think it was against Indiana, where he was covering the middle of the field. I think it was the cornerback lost his man, and Shazier takes off chasing down the sideline and then jumps up and intercepts the ball. Do you remember that,
I do. I
dude?
don't
Like that?
remember if it was against Indiana or not, but I do remember the
No,
play.
dude. That like talk about that athleticism. Like realizing that, like, okay, my cornerback has no idea where he's supposed to be. I'm gonna take off and chase this dude down and intercept the ball.
Right.
It's like,
Like it's nothing. I
yeah,
mean, like it's
like
nothing.
I don't
It was
know, but
unbelievable.
like you said, I mean, like our defense. But okay, what an addition. Who's our defensive coordinator's name? What's his name?
Why am I blanking right now?
I am too.
Why am I doing that? I'm so sorry. I'm gonna look it up because I just blanked on his name. I was looking up something else. Um, I'm so
What,
sorry.
dude?
I can't believe I did that.
Me too.
Jim Knowles. Jim
Yeah,
Knowles. Why
Jim
did I do
Knowles.
that? Sorry. So sorry.
Dude, Jim Knowles has been a huge asset to our team.
Yeah, I mean they've gone from a bottom third defense in the country to a top third or better, and I mean there's reasonable expectation that they could be a top 10 or 15 defense in the country this year. I think.
Yeah, and I hope our offense can get there with Chip Kelly too.
Yeah,
It's
listen. I'm not as concerned about the offense. I think with Chip
no, me
Kelly there,
neither.
like I said, they're going to look better in the run game.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
I think that's a
How
big
much?
thing. Just being able to run the ball out of the spread is a huge thing.
Yeah. How
Getting
many two
back to
running
that
back
kind of like
sets?
power run out of the spread. I know that
That's
seems
what I was just gonna say.
counterintuitive. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. How much like two set running backs do you think we see? How many like two tight end sets do you think we see? Like,
Yeah, I mean, you've got to. I think you have to show some of that because
d-
I mean the problem was guys getting into the backfield. I mean, if you look at Michigan's defensive line, I mean they didn't dominate Ohio State's offensive line. I thought the O line actually played pretty well against Michigan, but there were plays where it looked like Michigan had 13 or 14 guys on the field.
yep,
You can say what you want about that. Again, everybody wants to mention the sign stealing. I think at that point it was pretty obvious the way Michigan struggled against Purdue that they weren't stealing signs anymore. They weren't using that system or something had happened. At least a very, very abbreviated, version of it if they were. Because they really, really struggled against Purdue. You could see exactly
yeah,
when the struggle started. Because I think at one point, somebody was saying that J.J. McCarthy, for his career on third and more than 9 yards, had completed like 89% of his passes.
yeah,
Um, for those 3 games afterwards, he was like 21% on that same situation. So
yep,
that's a big gap. And you can't say, well, they played better defenses because one of those defenses was Purdue. And I think he was like 3 for 11 on third down and more than 9. So come on. I mean, maybe something was a little funny was going on there.
yeah.
But one thing I want to do real quick, I want to look at the schedule because I think there's I only see 2, maybe 3 stumbling points on this schedule. I just don't see much of any major concern. I don't think Akron, Western Michigan, or Marshall are going to make any noise. Do you?
You don't think you don't think Akron's gonna be a tough game?
I mean, sure, sure. I think it'll be hot. Um, Maybe that is the thing. I don't know. It'll be hot, right? Uh, no,
I
I don't think
mean,
Akron's gonna be overly tough. I don't think they're gonna
I
be
mean, looking
tough.
at our
Marshall, I don't
schedule,
think is gonna compete. What's that?
like you said, looking at our schedule, yeah, I don't think we really have a tough game until I mean maybe Iowa, maybe Oregon.
Yeah, yeah. Iowa is gonna present some defensive problems, but unless they can get their offense figured out, they're not gonna be a factor.
Their punter's
Um,
gonna their punter's gonna be 6 of 6 for 314 punting yards and 4 touchbacks.
you're not lying. Yeah, he'll be
They
there.
only
He'll
wish
have
that was
good
their
numbers.
quarter. They only wish that was their quarterback though.
Seriously, he'll have good numbers. But yeah, playing that game in Eugene, right at Oregon, I think that could be like the first real stumbling point of the season.
I agree.
If they're going to stumble, I think that could be it.
I agree.
You
But
got a new quarterback running a new offense, right? Going into a place like the Autzen Zoo, which it's a small place, but it's loud. It's so
yeah, it
loud
is.
there. It's wild for a quarterback to go in there as a visiting team. Well, we'll see. Oregon's pretty good too. It's not like Oregon's a slouch. They're really good.
No. Yeah.
Dan Lanning's always been able to recruit. I'm not surprised that they've pulled a couple guys here recently that I think some people thought were going to go to Ohio State. But
I
you
mean,
look at the recruiting. There's always so much room.
we talked about it a while ago on Come On Ref. these Oregon and Washington teams able to recruit like that, like Southwest, Midwest, those guys that don't want to leave that side of the country, that are
Right.
5-star recruits that they're able to pull, like you said, like a while ago, like that Pacific Northwest, like that. Those recruits don't want to leave the Oregon, Washington,
Yeah.
like the California area. Those guys that don't want to leave that area, heck, I'll just go up to Oregon and play.
Well, and the pool of better football was there before because, like, you can come to the Big Ten. The Pac-12 isn't, well, now the Pac-12 is gone, right?
Yeah,
And
and
now
now
those
Oregon's in
four
the Big
teams that
Ten.
you want to stay home for are in the
Yeah.
Big Ten. So,
Yep.
yeah, I really think that's going to really not destroy, but I think it's really going to hurt Ohio State's recruiting in the Pacific Northwest or even just in
Oh,
California in
I,
general too.
I do too, but
Yeah,
at the same time, though, I mean, Ohio State has some of the best recruiters in the country. I mean, you got Brian Hartline,
of
you got
course.
James Laurinaitis, you got obviously Ryan Day, Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
I mean,
And the
speaking
NIL collective is beginning to pay off. No pun intended, but I think you're starting to see that make a difference now. I mean,
for sure,
it seemed like Ohio State was like kind of hesitant to use their NIL resources for a while, and I think maybe that was because I had heard some rumors that there just weren't like many established rules around it yet. And I think Ohio State wanted to be really careful on how they treaded. They didn't want to because listen, Ohio State's always it always feels like they're in the crosshairs, right? Like
for
maybe that's
sure,
us as Buckeye fans being sensitive or whatever, but it always feels like they're in the crosshairs of the NCAA. Like they've always got some eye on them. I remember when the Tressel thing broke, and like it was all over ESPN, man. Like Tressel was like a 32-time convicted felon or something. It was unbelievable. Like
yeah,
the guy kept quiet to not step on the toes of a federal investigation. And really at the root, at the core of the thing, he was trying to protect his players, trying to shield them from, some riffraff, some nonsense, whatever. Um, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, I guess by the rules at the time, what he did was cheating. Okay. I'm not going to
yeah.
deny, I won't deny that. But I think it wasn't like he went there and like, hey, I'm Jim Tressel. We're gonna get free
I
tattoos.
approve this
We're gonna
message.
lie. Yeah, I approve this message. We're gonna lie about it. We're gonna do everything dirty and crooked. And I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna be the freaking senator, right, to the press. So nobody's ever gonna see. Like it wasn't like that. It was just sort of like I think he got caught up in a moment where he made the wrong decision. And then when you make that decision, it's like a little white lie leads to another white lie leads to another, and then it's just it snowballed on him, right?
Yep.
I really believe that. I really do believe that. Either way, it was against the rules at the time. I don't think the win should be reinstated. I think that's ridiculous. I do think the rule is ridiculous, but it was the rule at the time.
Yep.
Whether or not you like it,
Rules are rules.
you got to go by them, right? Like if
Yep.
you play within an organization or whatever, you have to go by the rules of that organization, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
Those are the rules. So no, I don't think they need to reinstate wins or anything like that. I think that's crazy. I think we can just, say, well, it's too bad it happened when it happened because, had it not, it would have been fine, right?
Yep.
Uh,
I got something to ask you. How
yeah,
much so now with all these, California teams coming to the Big Ten,
yeah.
how much do you think travel affects like a team's play?
Oh, a ton. And
Because
yeah, a ton.
the only game that we really, really have to travel out of our way for is the Oregon game.
And then they have a bye week right after.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
think
then you
that's
play
crazy.
Nebraska at home.
Hmm.
And speaking of travel, I would not want to play football for Hawaii's football team.
Oof.
Dude,
No,
their longest game is 7,848 miles round trip, going all the way to Texas and back.
that's like the NH. That's like the Stanley Cup Finals from going to
Yeah.
from Edmonton to Florida. That was wild. That was a lot of travel.
Yeah. Like
Um, yeah,
but like those years where Ohio State's playing USC and UCLA, I mean, obviously one of them's going to be home,
yeah.
but like you have to go all the way to USC,
Yeah.
all the way to Oregon,
And do you
all the
feel
way to
like
all these
after a
schools.
while, like these guys are just bewildered by like week like 10 or 11, they're just like, what time zone do I even exist in? Like, where am
Yeah.
I? Like, that's got to be wild.
Like that's why I said like a baseball player is so hard because like you're playing all these different time zones and you're still going out there and like
Every day,
hitting 300 and you're like, dude, how do you do it?
every day. Sometimes you're getting off a plane at 3 a.m., right? Getting checked into the hotel by 4:30, trying to get some sleep, and you might have a day game that day. I mean, the schedule isn't perfect. They try to avoid that. MLB tries to avoid that, but it happens. I know it's happened to the Braves a couple of times, and people get sensitive, and fans get sensitive about it. But the reality is, I think these guys get used to it, or as used to
Yeah,
it as you possibly can physically. It's tough though. I mean, even psychologically, it's tough.
it is,
Um,
especially trying to balance like schoolwork too.
yeah, jet lag is real, and yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
dude,
to
trust
try to
me, I
get your
know.
body to push through that, right? You're pushing through jet lag. Jet lag makes a businessman who never picks up a weight ever, right? Tired. Um, think of what it does to these guys whose bodies are destroyed from playing football for 10, 11, 12 weeks, right? Um, yeah, it could be a miserable thing, but like you said, Hawaii, boy, they have it tough. But listen, there are some redeeming qualities to playing football in Hawaii, I
Oh, for sure.
think.
I mean, like, okay, here's the thing. Would I want to play football in Hawaii? No. But if like, hey, we'll offer you a full ride scholarship to come live in Hawaii, would I?
Yeah.
Probably.
If it was my only offer, my only reasonable Division One offer, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be upset about going to
No.
Hawaii, but I'd be like,
Hey,
man,
mom and
that
dad, you
travel
guys want to
time,
come visit me in Hawaii?
so
You guys want to come
impractical.
visit me in Hawaii? Like,
It's just so impractical. Hey, what are the chances that Ohio State plays Northwestern at like some weird practice facility, or are they? What are they doing? They doing Wrigley Field? What are they doing? Soldier Field?
um,
Where are they playing that game?
I have not heard.
Oh no, it says Wrigley Field. Actually, I'm looking it up right now. It says they're going to play at Wrigley Field. Okay,
Does
so
it?
Ohio State plays Northwestern at Wrigley Field. Um, okay, so now look, it says tickets are going fast. Well, yeah, I mean there's half the seats. Um, listen, that could be like a weird kind of a trap game for me. Northwestern's terrible, right?
If we lose to Northwestern, I'm gonna be mad at you.
Well, listen, do you remember when?
If this is the come on ref curse,
Hey,
we're gonna have
no,
some
the come
issues,
on ref
Chad.
curse is if I say they're going to win, then they'll lose. Yeah, the come on ref curse is when I support the team, then they bottom
Oh,
out.
okay.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
different thing.
So it's
So
kind of like
with
Drake.
me saying this could be a trap game, that probably means they'll go into Wrigley Field and beat Northwestern 66-3. You know what I mean?
So it's kind of like
Um,
Drake. Whenever you bet on somebody, they end up losing.
yeah, exactly. I'll show up with the Raptors jersey on. Exactly right. It's fine. No, I think it could be like a weird like.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I do.
Yeah, you've got two home games to sandwich it in there. So there's comfort there, but you're also creeping up on that Michigan game, and you got to go to Northwestern where it can be kind of cold and whatever, Illinois, and then you're playing at Wrigley Field, and it's just a different it's just a different routine. None of these guys on this roster have ever played a football game at Wrigley Field, right? It's going to be completely different for them.
Yep.
I just wonder if that matters, if that's going to make a difference. We'll have to watch. I mean, that's November 16th. I'll be watching that game. I watch
I'll
every
be
game.
watching every single Ohio State game this year.
Absolutely.
I do every year.
Absolutely. Yep.
I do every year until
I
they
know.
make me mad, and then I throw something.
What's that? Right.
I said I do
I
every year until they make me mad, and then I throw something.
I stay till the bitter end. I even the blowout against Iowa the one year, and then they got beat by Purdue pretty bad. I stayed until the bitter end. Um, and
I
the
did
whole
too, because I
Purdue loss, honestly, it made it easier to stomach because the Purdue student that was there, like it was a cool story. At least there was that,
I
right?
did
Like
too,
that was
because I always have that hope that like, okay, maybe they'll make like an insane comeback or something. I'll be watching it, and it's
yeah.
like
Well,
something like that.
remember
But
against Purdue when Kenny Guyton was the backup quarterback. Remember Braxton Miller got hurt,
yeah,
hit his head on the turf or whatever, and like Kenny Guyton came in, and you're like, as a
dude,
fan, like you like
what
Kenny
a
Guyton as a
name,
person, but you're like, what's gonna happen now? He
dude,
brought him
what
all
a
the way
name,
back, man.
what a name, Kenny Guyton. I
Kenny
haven't
Guyton,
heard that name in. Oh, what a name!
fun to
I
watch,
remember
man.
that guy.
Really fun to watch. He's coaching now. He's still. I think he's still on Houston's coaching staff. No.
Texans?
No. The University of Houston. I think the
Oh,
Cougars. I think he's the offensive coordinator there.
let's find out.
Let's find out. Well, look that up for me. Where's our truck? Where are our guys in the truck? Do we have a truck? Do we have guys? Do we have anything? We don't have anything.
Kenny Guyton. Oh no, he joined Luke Fickle at Wisconsin.
Oh, he is at Wisconsin now. Ooh,
He's their receivers coach.
okay. I like Kenny Guyton. He's a guy who,
I do too.
since his time at Ohio State, I've you can't help but wish him well. You know what I mean? You just want him to do well.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay. One last thing, before we end up, calling this quits.
yeah.
Record prediction for Ohio State.
Okay. You go first. I'm gonna pull the
We'll do
cheat
this. We'll
code
do
on you and make you go first.
here. We'll do record prediction and how far we think they get in the tournament or in the 12-team playoff.
The playoff? Okay.
I'm gonna say 11-1 with either a loss to Oregon or Michigan.
Okay.
And I think we make it to either the semifinals or the national championship and lose.
Okay. Listen, to me, that would be a successful season. I know there are people that are going to
For
go see
sure.
Ryan Day
No,
football.
I think it would be as well.
I think that's extremely successful because that means you've won the Big Ten, probably won the Big Ten championship game at that point. If you're 11 and
Hmm.
one with that one loss to Michigan or Oregon, you're probably playing in the Big Ten championship.
Well, because there's no Big Ten conference now, right? It's just the top two teams.
Yeah, you're right. Is that what we're doing? I mean, I
I
thought
think so. I think
is
so.
this the year that takes place? Because how do you put a bunch of teams in the
I
East and
think it's
West
the.
when they're
I
literally
think
yeah?
it's the year. It might
I
be
could
this year or
be.
next year.
I wasn't sure if it was 2025 or let's look it up. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Let's see. Yep, top two teams overall. Yep, exactly.
So,
So
yeah, you could lose to either Michigan or Oregon, and still make the Big Ten championship game.
now let's say Michigan didn't lose 47 players to last year's team. Okay, let's say that Michigan came back and they were Michigan, right? They were expected to defend their national title. I don't think they are expected to do that. I think it'll be a big surprise if they win, 10 or 11 games. I really do. I think they
Yep.
could end up 9-3, but that's fine. Um, so let's say Michigan is 11-0 going into week 12 or whatever. It's actually like week 15 or whatever, but it doesn't matter. They're both 11-0. Ohio State, Michigan are both 11-0. Ohio State's taking care of business against Oregon. Michigan's beaten Texas or whoever they play early on. Everything's fine. Everything's equal. Um, and this could be a crazy situation in the future, right? Let's say, for our sake, let's just say Ohio State beats Michigan. Okay, so they beat them in the regular season, and then they would
Yep.
go the next week in the Big Ten championship game. Not the next week, but pretty much the next week,
Yeah.
and play each other in the Big Ten championship game. Right? Michigan were to return the favor there, and then you could possibly see them match up with each other in the first round of the playoffs. You think that's ever going to happen?
I don't know if it'll happen in the first round, but I definitely think you could see them play each other 3 times in a matter of like 4 weeks.
Yeah, or whatever it is, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, whatever it
Yeah.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, 3 times in 4 games. I get your point. I think that could be crazy. That could be a really
I definitely could be.
yeah, that could be a wild
But
situation. Could you imagine a situation where Ryan Day loses to Michigan 3 times in a season?
okay, if he loses 3 times in a season, you have to fire him. You have to. You have to. Like, I'm sorry. You
He goes
have
from
to.
0-3 to 0-6 in one calendar year. That's bad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you have to.
Or not 0 and
Um,
1-3, whatever.
yeah, but no, I did want to ask you this though.
Yeah.
The game's always played at that noon time slot. I
Okay.
think what would make the game a whole lot more fun, right? You give it that prime time 7 o'clock kickoff with Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler on the call.
Yeah. Well,
That would be a game where if I have any plans, cancel.
yeah.
I'm
Listen,
staying in to watch this.
the only time in my recent memory that it's been not at 12, not at noon, was the year that they were 1-2. And if you remember, Ohio State won 42-39. It was a really good game. It was the one Ohio State game also, maybe one of like maybe 3 over the last 15 or 20 years that I haven't been able to watch. I was at work and I was trying to get like radio updates. You know what I mean? Like we were trying to listen to the radio to see what was going on. And that game started at 3:30. And apparently, this is the word. The rumor is that they had so many problems on and around campus and at the stadium and tailgating that they said we're never going to do this afternoon again. We're always going to have this at noon. We can't give these students all day to drink like this. It's not beneficial to anybody, really.
I get
That's
it,
the
but I just
rumor
think
that I've heard. That's the biggest factor that I've heard.
a 7 o'clock primetime D game would break TV numbers.
I can't agree with you more. Could you imagine, like you said, that 7:30, 8 o'clock, whatever it is, that prime time kickoff? But then, on top of that, put it in the horseshoe and there's like a blackout for the fans or whatever they want to do, red out, whatever they
Dude.
want to do, right? Whatever fan thing you want to do where you get the fans all like cohesive in one thing.
Yeah,
It could be pretty wild. And it gets loud in
could
there,
be.
man. I mean, it gets really
Yeah,
loud. It's not a fun place to play if you're an opponent. I mean, I know some people have come in there and won the last few years. It doesn't make it any easier to play there. Um, it's a tough place to play. That could be a
it
lot of fun.
is.
But yeah, I don't think it'll ever be the only chance you'll ever, you'll get maybe a playoff game. Maybe what are we doing? Are we doing a top seed in the first round, host a playoff game? Is that what we're doing?
Um, let me look it up for you.
I think that was the plan.
Let's
There
see
have been
here.
so many changes on this that I honestly just don't even really know. to be honest with you.
Let's see here.
Yeah, if that, then you could have.
So,
Go ahead.
so how the college football playoff works? The 12 teams will be selected to the playoff field. The four highest ranked conference champions will be seeded 1 through 4, and each will receive a first round bye. Teams seeded 5 through 12 will each play each other in the first round on the home field of the higher ranked team.
Okay, so if Ohio State ever ends up 5 through 8, and Michigan ever ends up 9 through 12, you're going to have a chance for Ohio State to host Michigan in a primetime playoff game.
Yep. Unless they make it at noon because of that same situation.
Do you think they'll do that? Maybe they'll do that. I can't imagine. Listen, at the end of the day, the regular season is what it is. Everybody's always going to watch the Ohio State Michigan game, but I cannot imagine them putting a playoff game at noon. I don't see it happening. Maybe
Especially
when
with
the
more especially with more well, they might with more this year because they might play more games on one day.
But don't you think they would rather go three? Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I would think they
Unless
would
you
almost
do it
rather go 2 games at 3:30, 2 games at 7:30 or 8, whatever.
you could, but if they're gonna do that, they make the Ohio State games at 3:30. They wouldn't give them the primetime slot. Because like you said, they're not gonna give those fans all day to get drunk and then go in there and start fighting with each other.
Yeah, you're probably right. Hey, I just saw real quick before we get out of here because we've almost been talking about this for an hour and a half now. I saw there's a 7-on-7 thing, and I can't remember where it is, but it's back home by me, and I can't remember if it's at Bell Fountain, but Bell Fountain is involved in it. My high school, Wapakoneta, is involved in it, and it's like $2. I think they're asking for a $2 donation for just Google it. Google Bell Fountain 7-on-7, whatever. Those high school football. I can't remember. Ashland, I think, was involved. A couple other squads from around that general region of the state or whatever were involved in that as well. That's a good chance to see Ohio State commit Tavian St. Clair, 5-star consensus 5-star quarterback Tavian St. Clair. Maybe put on a little bit of a show and maybe
Where does he go?
Bell Fountain. He's at Bell Fountain.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. I couldn't remember it was.
Yeah. And then you might be able to see my team do some things too. You never know. I think they're ranked like they're tied for 6th in the preseason rankings in Division 3. My high school is.
That's not bad.
So no, they're not bad. They're not bad. They're right up there with like they're up there with like Chardon and Kenston, and they're way above Kenston actually right now. But some of the teams that you think of that have made like decent runs the last few years or whatever,
Yeah.
Walpock's up there. You know what I mean? They're decent. But yeah, that 7-on-7. Look it up. I don't have all the details, but I just kind of saw it. It just kind of passed by my Facebook timeline earlier, and I thought, wow, that's kind of a cool event, And for $2 a pop, I think it's a really good chance to go out there and see,
Oh, for sure.
and obviously lead 11, like one of the top quarterback, prospects in the country, go put on a show.
Yeah, for sure.
7-on-7 is just way more laid back. You went to the Brunswick 7-on-7 a
I
couple
did.
weeks ago, right? How'd
I
that
did.
go?
Good. Met Tedgen Sr.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
Yeah, you sent me the picture. That was amazing, man.
Dude, that was awesome. Hey, dude, he was telling some stories about his son. Dude, that was incredible. Like I asked him, I was like, I was like, hey, like huge fan of you and your son, and he's like, oh, my son, he's like, he was a bum in high school. I was like, he's like, yeah, he's like his freshman year, he's like, yeah, he wasn't very good. He's like, he ran like a 5.240. I was like,
oh, come on, maybe on his hands.
no, he was dead serious.
Wow.
He's like, he ran a 5.240, and then he's like, he had a meeting with Nick Saban, and Nick Saban straight up told him to his face, hey, you're too slow to play in college football, and then he ended up running like a 4.440.
Okay, so that wasn't a decision that he made. Where did the speed training come from? Did he say?
No, he just said that. So Nick Saban kind of gave him like little like pat and like rub on the head and was like, like you're not good enough to play in college, kid.
Okay.
So it was kind of like motivation to be like, okay, like I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Fair enough. Listen, I've got all the motivation I need to get out of here and find Ted
Me
Ginn
too.
Sr. and Nick Saban and find out where Ted Ginn Jr. did his speed training because I'm gonna learn to run like a 4.140. Ben, listen, man, it's been a pleasure. We'll get into recruiting another time. We'll do like a part 2 of the Ohio State thing, maybe right before the season kicks off.
For sure.
And we'll talk about the recruiting class. And listen, everything could change between now and then anyway. You know how recruiting is. I mean, things are so fickle with NIL and everything else, and guys trying to make 17, 18-year-old kids trying to make a decision. It's not easy. You know what I mean? It's really just not easy. So we'll see where that goes, and we'll talk about that maybe a little bit closer to even signing day or whatever. We can talk about the recruiting. But Ben, like I said, it's been real.
It has been
going on with me, man. I hope you had a good 4th
of course.
of July. I meant to mention that.
I did.
Show.
I hope you did as well.
I did, man. It was nice and laid back. A few days off with the family, just kind of laid low, and went and visited other family and did some fun summer stuff. So it was cool. It was cool. But and again, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate you so much. Whenever you watch it, even if you couldn't catch us live, we appreciate you sticking around for almost this is like a feature length film now. We're almost at an hour and a half. So again, for Ben Bales, I am Chad Bryan. This has been another episode of the Sports Show with No Name. Thanks, guys.
Peace.